Hey everybody, it's Party Elite with another episode of Total Breakdown. This one was sent in by Castor, leading the Vampire Counts against the Empire led by R8. The Vampire Counts are led by the Red Duke alongside a Vampire, 4 units of Skeleton Warriors, 2 ranked up to rank 1, 3 units of Graveguard, Varix Reavers, a unit of Blood Knights, and 2 units of Crypt Horrors. The Empire comes in with an Arc Lector in charge, a Witch Hunter, 3 units of Spearmen with Shields ranked up to rank 1, 2 units of Halberdiers, Sigmar's Sons, the Tattersouls, the Silver Bullets, a unit of the Knights of the Blazing Sun, a unit of Outriders with Grenade Launchers, and a Templehof Luminarch. Alright, first things first, we're going to look at the layouts, and it's pretty simple from the Vampire Counts. We've got the Skeleton Warriors on either end and the Graveguard in the middle, so a strong center with the Skeleton Warriors on either side. They are bolstered, however, by the Crypt Horrors on either flank as well, so a good central layout overall. Then we've got the Red Duke and the Wizard off to the side here, and to the right flank we have Varix Reavers as well as the Blood Knights, so I guess the intent was to either absorb an engagement or to begin one and come in from the flanks with some sort of pincer maneuver, have the Crypt Horrors push in through the front, get their poison in there, and get their damage in there as well. That seems to be the plan from the Vampire Counts. Instantaneously you see a move order was given to push forward. The Empire has a much more defensive layout, so you'll see over here we've got a front line of Spearmen with Shields right behind them, the Halberdiers to bolster them wherever necessary, the Silver Bullets right behind them, and then the Tattersouls and the Sigmar's Sons tucked away in the woods here, hidden. Not entirely sure the intent there, maybe hoping to counter an inbound charge or just to keep them hidden to bluff the opponent, but not necessary. They would have been a lot more helpful if they were already in formation to begin with. Now, we also have the Templehof Luminarch off to the side here, hoping to get some early shots off, and the Knights of the Blazing Sun over here, ideally coming in for some flanking maneuvers after the front lines have engaged. And most interestingly, the Outriders with Grenade Launchers hidden in the woods here. That is an interesting move, trying to keep them out of sight, out of mind, and once the engagements begin, they could have been brought in to open fire from the rear, unobstructed, unperturbed, able to open fire into the rears of the enemy infantry. So a very interesting placement there, very interesting thought there, and it's always nice to see sort of deployments that aren't traditional, so to speak. Now, as I mentioned, everyone is pushing forward. You'll notice over here the Blood Knights and Varix Reavers are pushing off to the side. A quick shot comes in from the Templehof Luminarch, killing 5 Blood Knights, doing a little bit of damage there, but more than the damage done physically or in terms of morale to the unit, it's the damage done to the opponent. You'll see that flanking maneuver, which really didn't have to be pulled back for any reason, was in fact pulled back. These Blood Knights and Varix Reavers could have continued to go forward, in fact could have probably pushed out a little bit wider and forced the Templehof Luminarch to sort of give chase and rotate, possibly shutting down the Luminarch, but instead they were pulled back in a way just because of that one shot. So a little bit of mind games going on there perhaps, but that retreat wasn't entirely necessary. Meanwhile over here, great move here, I'm assuming this was intentional, but the Red Duke and the Vampire being sent out just to get a quick scout here. There's only one place where the enemy may have hidden some units, well, 2 places, either here or off in this pocket here, but good move here, sending these guys out to scout, and the Outriders with Grenade Launchers, they notice that is coming in, so may as well move out of the woods and prepare for the engagements. Now, with that said, you'll see again these Blood Knights and Varix Reavers continue to sort of move in this direction. Perhaps it was more to engage with the Knights of the Blazing Sun, but that could have been dealt with just with the Blood Knights, and the Varix Reavers could have been kept on this side, continue to push forward, forcing the Empire to have to deal with cavalry from both sides. Now over here, the Red Duke and the Vampire just giving chase to the Outriders with Grenade Launchers, forcing them away, and forcing also the Knights of the Blazing Sun to pull away. And over here you'll see a slight mistake. The Outriders with Grenade Launchers decide to open fire, but they're firing at the Crypt Horrors instead, and that's not the ideal target. These grenades are anti-infantry, and so you're better off actually targeting Skeleton Warriors, Graveguard, anything that is easily thrown about with explosions, so to speak. So you'll notice the Red Duke and the Vampire dive in almost right away, and they cause a fair amount of damage. The morale damage is great, a couple of strikes from the Red Duke, and the physical damage is also great. And you'll notice over here, you actually get, in just a second, the net of Emintok coming in from the Tempelhof Illuminarch. So the Outriders are able to fly away, the Vampire and the Red Duke are caught in place. Now over here you'll see again the Varix Reavers and the Blood Knights sort of taking the long way around, just delaying their arrival to the front, and the handgunners here, the Silver Bullets, opening fire at a variety of units. Important to sort of focus down. It would have been great to target the Crypt Horrors. They are an ideal target. Skeleton Warriors, since they have shields, aren't going to take as much damage, and the same goes for the Graveguard as well. All of these guys have bronze or silver shields, so they will be negating some of that missile fire. Crypt Horrors are the ideal target, and of course they are a threatening unit as well. Now over here you'll notice the Outriders do dive back in right away, and again using the grenades to fire at seemingly the Crypt Horrors, who were able to dodge that one, but now they have to retreat as these Blood Knights come in, and the Red Duke as well is getting lined up for well, something we can all expect to see, and something very important happens here. You'll notice the cast was put down, but the Red Duke continues to move up just a little bit, and notice how the angle changed. This was initially straight, but because the Red Duke moved up, the angle has shifted ever so slightly, and let's take a look at what that does to this Wind of Death. This straight line, a juicy target, absolutely devastating spell when something like this is presented to you. A silver platter, a golden platter, platinum platter, but that Wind of Death just goes a little bit off target and causes an immense amount of damage to the Skeleton Warriors. Now that unit of Spearmen has been destroyed, but these guys are still intact and safe. That Wind of Death would have gone all the way across and destroyed this entire front line. However, just because of that slight movement from the Red Duke on his mount, the angles shifted ever so slightly, and instead of getting a clean hit across all of these units, you saw exactly what happened. Now over here you'll notice the Blood Knights and Varix Reavers sort of sitting back and relaxing, not getting involved. They need to be sent in immediately. These Varix Reavers should have been sent in for some rear charges, hitting the Tattersouls, hitting, keeping the Tempelhof Illuminarch engaged, absolutely anything, but instead they were sitting there for quite a while, and the Skeleton Warriors as well could have been sent back here just to keep the Knights of the Blazing Sun engaged. You'll notice these Skeleton Warriors are quickly falling apart. The Red Duke does come back to provide some support, but again, just a little bit of negligence over here, allowing the battle to go on for a little bit longer than necessary. Meanwhile, these Crypt Horrors as well sort of kept back there for far too long. They should have been sent in with the rest of the army to dive in, get their poison damage in there, and get their support in there as soon as lines meet. Now you'll notice as the Blood Knights give chase to these Outriders, they have to retreat. They do not stand a chance, but they are getting caught, and they will be destroyed as soon as they get caught. So the Blood Knights are giving chase there. Skeleton Warriors moving in. We've got a couple more units being sent in, and Varix Reavers actually slowing down because they're caught up in this clump while going uphill as well, so they're not going to get a decent hit or anything. They get a small charge in there, hurt the Tattersouls a little bit, and then dive into seemingly the Tempelhof Illuminarch, trying to prevent it from getting too much work done. Meanwhile, the front lines have engaged. You'll see a couple of spells going down as well. The Grand Hammer of Sigmar helping helping the Arc Lecture in there, cause some damage to these Crypt Horrors, and really the Knights of the Blazing Sun, now you'll see back here, are engaged with a bunch of zombies, and these were actually brought in, raised from the dead by the Red Duke. So the Knights of the Blazing Sun at this point should have been pulled back, either to engage these Crypt Horrors over here and cause them some hurt, or been pulled over here, got a rear charge into some of these Skeleton Warriors and Graveguard, and especially got some extra damage into the Crypt Horrors. Crypt Horrors can regenerate. They have that as an ability. That means they are weak to fire damage. Knights of the Blazing Sun have fire damage. So simple sort of equation there. These Knights of the Blazing Sun should have engaged either one of these two areas and caused a significant amount of damage. Now, apart from that, you'll notice as well, these Skeleton Warriors were again just left idle for a little bit too long there, and finally being brought in to shut down the Tempelhof Illuminarch, which is taking a lot of damage, especially in terms of morale, very close to giving up. Now the Red Duke does dive in back here, trying to take out the Witch Hunter alongside the Vampire of Death, and the front lines sort of holding for now, but very quickly beginning to falter, you'll see. Decent placement overall by the Empire player. The Arc Lector is providing support in the center, off to the left flank here from the Vampire Count's perspective. We've got two unbreakable units able to hold their own. Of course, the Varix Reavers do come in, get a nice rear charge in there just to cause some damage. It's not going to do any morale damage, but of course the physical damage is always welcome. And overall, decent placement, but the front will start to falter, and you'll notice as some of these units begin to surrender and leave, they never actually get re-engaged. They never get pulled back into the fight. Now over here the zombies finally do die, but what a waste of time, what a waste of use for the Knights of the Blazing Sun. They're now tired, spent so long fighting a unit that really did not need fighting, and now they're just left standing there idle. Meanwhile, the Blood Knights were chasing the Outriders, they chased the Outriders until they shattered somewhere up here, and then they decided to chase these Spearmen until they shattered, and now finally being brought back down here. Really should have been brought over here to shut down that Tempelhof Luminarch again, because it has recovered, and a couple of good shots from the Luminarch will do a lot of damage. It could kill the Red Duke, or the Vampire, cause a significant amount of hurt. You'll still see it, by the way, the Knights of the Blazing Sun sitting idle, and the envelopment is finally more or less complete. These Skeleton Warriors also sitting idle. They could have been sent in against these Spearmen, or sent in against the Silver Bullets here, or the Halberdiers. A lot of options here, a lot of idle time, so a bit of negligence going on over there. Now, meanwhile, over here, you'll notice the Vampire does get shut down, chasing the Witch Hunter, but gets shut down with the Net of Amintok. A little bit earlier, the Tempelhof Luminarch took a shot and hit the side of a hill, which is hilarious. But now that the Vampire is kept in place by the net, it's going to get another shot off, and you'll see exactly what happens here in a minute. Charging up a shot, gets a shot off, gets a decent amount of hurt on the Vampire, and also takes down a tower, so it's hilarious. Now over here, the Blood Knights finally decide they're going to take care of the Knights of the Blazing Sun. Again, I think they would have been better used taking care of the Tempelhof Luminarch, just shutting that down, getting rid of it right away. But on the other side, the Knights of the Blazing Sun are quickly taken care of. Of course, the Blood Knights are anti-large, so this is not a problem for them at all. Now the Crypt Horrors are left idle, the Skeleton Warriors are idle, and these Skeleton Warriors are idle as well. Meanwhile, these Halberdiers are simply standing there, as are these Spearmen with shields. So a lot of negligence coming from both sides of the battlefield here. You'll notice over here, the Vampire does die, but the Tempelhof Luminarch does give up as well. Witch Hunter still there, but too far away to cause any significant damage at this point. And you'll notice over here, we do have a little bombardment coming in, trying to cause a little bit of hurt, but it doesn't do all that much. Too little too late. The Arc Lector is terrified now as well, willing to give up, and there you have it, a mass shatter. Of course, Sigmar's Sons and the Tattersouls willing to continue the fight, but slowly and surely they are dying. Only a handful of Sigmar's Sons left. Well, actually just the one. There he goes, and that is a decisive victory for the Vampire Counts. Now, this battle could really have gone either way, largely due to some negligence from both generals. The Wind of Death could have been a game changer, granting an easy victory to the Vampire Counts within a handful of minutes, but the Empire simply did not capitalize on the situation and allowed some very high-tier units to get bogged down by enemy fodder troops. Those Knights of the Blazing Sun spent far too long fighting just a bunch of zombies. Now, they were underutilized, and retreating units were also just simply not brought back into the fray as quickly as needed, and meanwhile the Vampire Counts also left many units unengaged for far too long, and that just lengthened the duration of the battle unnecessarily. As always, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content, and keep sending in those battle replays. I think they're an absolutely amazing way to learn, just to see what other players and other generals are doing on the battlefield, and again, it's always nice to highlight battles from the community. As always, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.